week, well, not this week, but this month's episode of Deep Dive, where we take a closer look at many infamous movies that hopefully you've seen before you watch this episode, because if not, there are plenty of spoilers and it might not make any sense. So I am Jeff Galashaw, your host, and as always is my co-host Andre Joseph of AJ Epics.
I ain't fall for no banana, no tail pot.
And welcome to this month's episode where we will be talking about a little known Mark Harmon movie that is very hard to find, mind you, unless that month cable decides to air it, called Worth Winning. It is from 1989, and it is a comedy directed by Will Mackenzie and written by Joanne McGibbon and Sarah Perry. I know, amazing. This was written by women. Not that it was written that they can't write. It's just that this movie is so misogynistic. Very hard to believe females wrote this. And it's actually based on a novel by a man named Dan Lewandowski, which I could not find online. So it stars Mark Harmon, and I believe might be one of the first times I remember seeing Madeleine Stowe in a movie. And she kind of has the better of the female roles in this movie. Leslie Ann Warren is also in it. Andrea Martin, the late great Tony Longo, and a friend you might know, Devin Ratray, is in this movie. David Brenner has a cameo, and Brad Hall is in this movie. Okay, let me set the scene. 1989, this movie comes out. I go see it in theaters because I like Summer School, the movie. So I'm thinking Mark Harmon, comedy, breaking fourth wall, talking to camera. What can go wrong? Got some sexy ladies in it. Got sexy Leslie Ann Warren. I don't know who this main chick is, but she's kind of cute. And this woman playing a cheerleader who's like a fantasy come true. So basically the plot of this movie is that Mark Harmon, playing a weatherman, a job you know I hate, he bets his friend, whose wife somehow owns a Picasso, that he can seduce 3 different women of his friend's choosing and get them all to agree to marry him. And if he can, he will win this Picasso. Yes, this is what passed for a plot line in 1980s. What follows is a series of sexual and sitcomish hijinks. I'm not gonna lie, I like the movie, at the time. Keep in mind, I was probably about 12 when this came out. Mark Harmon is a nice enough leading man and good looking, obviously, but his character is douche. And really there's only 2 memorable people in this movie, and they are Leslie Ann Warren as the henpecked wife who becomes, sex crazed, having this affair, and Madeleine Stowe as kind of an early version of a feminist in the 1980s, I guess, who's not above a casual sex, though. And those are the 2 big best parts of the movie. The third woman, Maria Holovoff, who plays the cheerleader, really unfortunately didn't get too many roles after this. And I mean, she's perfectly okay, but she's the most forgettable person in this movie. And I know Andre is sitting there thinking, why the hell did you pick this movie? And I picked it because it is the perfect example of a film I'm going to call now the worth winning strategy. That is when a movie basically has a whole surplus of scripts and they need to make these movies before their option on it goes away. And they also want to kind of invest in a TV star, who's supposedly going to be the next big thing. So they hand him this film and, disposable list of directors, whoever's willing to work on it. And they basically put these movies out that they know are not going to necessarily be hits, but might be a hit for a week or two and make enough money so that the studio makes its money back off of its investment in the film, and might even win that week's box office. Because remember, when we were growing up, there were like 10 films coming out every week, and half of them you didn't even know what they were. Now you're lucky if you get 2 that you recognize, and that's in theaters. And so I feel like Worth Winning, or even the John Larroquette better film, Madhouse, these are versions of that type of movie. And that is why you only see John Larroquette really starring in movies as the main character is Madhouse and Second Sight, because he kept winning Emmys, so studios had an interest in him. And why in Blind Date he's more of a supporting character and maybe more of the one of the more memorable parts of that movie. Now, Andre, since obviously you just saw this for the first time recently, tell me what your thoughts on Madhouse are.
Matt, you mean Worth?
Worth Winning. See, I'm already.
I still have to rewatch Madhouse one of these days. Yeah. So just to kind of set the context, because like I said, this movie, it's passed me by for so many years. I think my aunt had a copy of it on video, or at least she recorded off HBO, and I see it like every now and then, but never watch it all the way through. So the first time that I saw it, I actually had to like buy it off of somebody to get it, a digital copy of it, because it's on Amazon apparently. What I would say is, let me set because a lot of people who don't know Mark Harmon, they only know him from NCIS. They don't know, like, back then, that here was this guy who was a UCLA football star who made the transition to acting. Then in the early 80s, he found success as the doctor on St. Elsewhere. He was like the plastic surgeon who ended up getting AIDS. And that was like a huge deal because they had never done an AIDS storyline in a TV show at that time. And then it kind of transitioned to him, playing Ted Bundy in The Deliberate Stranger. And that kind of like got everybody's attention. He becomes the sexiest man alive from People magazine, the first time they ever did that. So this guy's got hype around him. Everybody's thinking he's going to be the next big thing in Hollywood. He even does a 3-part episode of Moonlighting that gets everybody thinking he's going to be huge. But he tries to transition to the films, and that charm and good looks that he had on TV never really translated. So Summer School, he was funny. I mean, that was a good film and entertaining, but it wasn't a hit at the time. It was just like one of those dumb comedies like Police Academy that probably did well the first weekend and it would just drop off after that. Then they tried to make him an action star with The Presidio, and that doesn't work because Sean Connery eats up the screen away from him. And by the way, the villain in that movie ends up being his best friend in Worth Winning, which I thought was kind of coincidental and funny.
Mark Bloom?
Mark Bloom, who he suddenly lost to COVID a few years ago. Rest in peace, Mark Bloom. And then he did a drama called Stealing Home, which actually a lot of people liked. That was with him and Jodie Foster. It's like a coming-of-age story, but again, was not a hit. So they figured, okay, let's have him do a comedy where you, again, play off his good looks, his charm, these 3 women he's trying to seduce, and it doesn't completely work. And I think there's a lot of issues with this film, with its humor and, maybe some of the chemistries with the ladies. But there's 2 issues that I have looking back at this. One is the twist with the cheerleader when we find out, spoiler alert, she's a virgin, and, he kind of takes advantage of that. And then the other thing, which I don't know if it was a controversy at the time, but if people were watching it now, they would probably ban this like Song of the South. Him having to prove to Mark Blum that he's having the flings with these women by videotaping himself.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
And this was the same time as the Rob Lowe sex tape, which we know was a big deal because it was Rob Lowe and a bunch of underage girls. At least one of the girls was underage.
One of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this was during the time of the Democratic Convention back in '88, and then the leak came out the year after when this tape leaked. So to have that going on already gives you an uncomfortable feeling watching this film, that this guy has to prove himself by having to videotape himself with these women, sleeping with them, and showing them off to his friend to prove that he's doing that. And then, of course, the women all kind of gang up, realize what's happening, and then make him learn his lesson. And then he decides who he wants to be with.
Well, not exactly. It does decide.
Yeah.
There's only one left.
Yeah, there's only one left, but it's just like it's not even funny. It's just very uncomfortable to sit through and almost feels like this is a bunch of guys. This is written by women, but it also feels like this is what a bunch of guys would be doing in 1989 who were sitting in a studio office and saying, oh yeah, that shit's gonna be funny to watch this guy fucking these girls and showing off to his friends. Yeah, that's gonna make big money. And it's Mark Harmon. No, no, this had the unintended effects. And I feel like this is probably why you can't find this movie now. Not just because Disney owns Fox, but because this would piss off the Me Too movement people.
Well, no more than Loverboy might.
Oh, yeah, Loverboy's another one, too.
But that one was directed by a woman, too.
Yeah.
But, okay, with this movie, I always, even when I was a kid, I felt like the ending was a cop-out with him and, Madeline Stowe riding off into the sunset. The blonde girl kind of getting her comeuppance because and wanting to be better sexually for him. She sleeps with her male best friend, Tony Longo, the football player.
Yeah.
He's overprotective of her. I felt like, okay, that's a little far-fetched, for the movie, but it shows her devotion. Leslie Ann Warren's character, I can sort of understand why she acts the way she acts, but it's a little over the top. Right. This film kind of reminds me of the same humor of Married with Children. That's what it kind of reminds. But even Married with Children is cleaner than this movie. It's not as problematic. I mean, I'm a Leslie Ann Warren fan who I feel like she needed to get more work. I mean, it's nice seeing her, kind of in lingerie through half of this movie, but like I said, Mark Harmon, I feel like in Breaking the Fourth Wall, his character kind of has, the audience in the palm of his hand. And, he has this like kind of, you want to like him, but it's just like, again, but his behavior is so despicable that it's just like, oh, but I can't like you. You're basically, to use a modern day term, you're a fuckboy. Who wants to find love, though, supposedly, even though you're knowingly using all these women. Like, at no point does his conscience come into play, except when it comes to de-virginizing the other girl.
Yeah.
But, like, he's gleefully, like, excited at, like, seducing the married woman, which you think would have been like, hey, who has a teenage child? Like, you would think that would kind of bother him, and Madeline Stowe should be the easiest because he's already been set up on a blind date with her earlier where they did not get along and argued the whole time, but like, again, it reminds me of movies like Sibling Rivalry where, I mean, now the cast is impressive, but at the time these were just, the regular working actor, because I can't remember who played Leslie Ann Warren's husband, but he was in a lot of movies.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on him.
Yeah, usually the heavy set kind of balding. He looks like somebody who would have played a teacher on Saved by the Bell, but he's a better actor than that. So he's a little bit better than that quality. But I mean, like I said, I even thought maybe the old guy, because there's this running theme of him always taking each of his dates to go see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, because again, it was being re-released around that time, so little cross promotion, I guess. But even the old man Usher, at first I thought he was like an old Hollywood director who actually directed this movie, and it's just he's just a random old guy actor. It would have been a little bit more interesting if like you had more interesting drop-ins and cameos. And I mean, it was easy for me to dislike Mark Harmon's character because I don't like Weatherman. So I think it's the easiest job in the world, and they still get it wrong 50% of the time. When really all they're doing is reading a computer. So trust me, I can go on a whole rant about weather people, but I digress. But yeah, I mean, I know this wasn't a very memorable film to bring up, but again, I wanted to use something that was a perfect example of 1989 in the politics of old school Hollywood. Yeah. And also these movies that me and you grew up with that usually would probably end up on Fox 5 or Channel 11, and we watched dozens of times there. But this was what was coming out in theaters, and these were our choices. It was like, do I watch Madhouse or do I watch Worth Winning? You know, or do I watch Sibling Rivalry? And it would work on us younger audiences because we watched these shows, so we knew who they were. And watching them play a different role, or let's say in the case of Kirstie Alley, play sexy in a film and be a leading lady, you're more interested in seeing that rather than seeing her always playing Rebecca, who's kind of scattershot and bitchy on Cheers, and then never ends up with Sam. You know, so here she gets her happy ending. So well, in her other moves, you know, even Kirstie Alley was like, no, and you know, and she's like, what is it? Xenu would not approve of this. You know, can we cast my friend John Travolta in this?
Oh god, well, not today, but at that time he probably could have worked.
It probably would have made money. A perfect example of what I am going to term the Worth Winning strategy. The movie me and you love to talk about, Don't Tell Her It's Me with Steve Guttenberg.
Yeah.
That is a perfect example of that type of movie, you know, where Steve Guttenberg, I decided to leave Police Academy. This is the best script I got, you know, and he went with that. So, I mean, look, I understand, and it has a great cast. I don't know how they talked David Brenner into being into it, but whatever.
There's a cool Nintendo reference in there. I'd say that was kind of funny.
Well, it had to be a little bit modern, and you know, and you know, the joke with Devin Ratray talking about how his fly is open after he had sex with his mother in, well, the character's mother in the bathroom at this art gallery. I don't know. I feel like after watching this movie, Madeline Stowe, great actress, but she always tended to seem to play a version of this type of character in most of her. Very headstrong, still sexy. Even when she was in, what was that movie, Blink, I always felt like at least she's a damsel in distress, but she was still so independent that it kind of worked for the character. Obviously, this is no revenge, you know. But I mean, she had a sexiness to her in this film, and like I said,
I miss Madeline Stowe in movies. She was always sexy to me.
Yeah, it's like at a certain point, she just stopped working or worked a lot less. I mean, she had that television series that she was in, but I believe she was only in the first season.
And she's married to the guy from Dream On, which is still shocking to me.
Trust me. Well, that would... Didn't she have a cameo in Clean and Sober?
No, I wouldn't know that if...
Oh, okay, because I know Brian Benben, and I always thought since he was in it, she had a cameo in it.
No.
But I'll admit, I haven't seen Clean and Sober in over a decade, so... I just always remember that's who she's... I mean, no offense to Brian Benben.
He's a nice guy. But...
Yeah, but I'm just like, I was always shocked about that, you know? And then I was like, why did she never guest star on Dream On? You know? Obviously, she's the best thing because she's the person we're talking about the most. Right.
Yeah, Mark Harmon, I mean, I think this sunk his film career after that because he went straight back to TV, doing a bunch of TV movies and... pretty much all the way up until NCIS, he was just like playing supporting parts, like he did.
He wasn't Freaky.
Freaky Friday was one. Yeah. Wyatt Earp. He was in one of those First Daughter movies with, I think the one with Katie Holmes. One of the two.
Yeah, that one or Mandy Moore's, whichever.
Yeah, he was like the president, but these were like throwaway parts that he was doing, and then NCIS just suddenly he became like Sinatra. Everybody loved him again.
I mean, there is a likability about him. I think maybe if you couldn't have got Kevin Costner, I don't know if it would have been a hit. He would have been a fit for Yellowstone, you know.
Well, you know, like me and our good friend Vishon Quiones of the Fear of Black Twitter podcast, we were having to talk about this a while back about Presidio and how, yeah, his performance isn't the greatest. It's very flat, but you can't deny the guy can do action because he's very physical. That whole chase scene he does in Chinatown, he's not relying on a stunt man. He's actually jumping on cars and running through the streets and taking the hits. Like, I mean, the guy is physical. It's just the acting part. When you put him with a veteran like a Sean Connery or somebody, he's dwarfed. He shrinks, And then it seems like even with the comedies, he's trying to play a certain type of nice guy persona that the ladies love, but the guys are like, no, fuck that dude. I'd rather hang out with Bruce Willis.
I think Mark Harmon is kind of like Tim Allen, and there was another actor, but now his name escapes me. But these guys who are, best when they're doing television. Oh, and Tom Selleck. They're best when they're doing television. When they're in movies, they're a little struggling and they never quite find that right project. I mean, at least for Mark Harmon, Mark Harmon, he at least has Summer School. As it was a bomb at the time, but has grown to be beloved.
It was a hit on video and on cable.
Exactly. And that's going to probably be, as far as movies, the best he's going to get as a leading actor. Just like with Tim Allen, he keeps going back to the Santa Claus well. And for every Galaxy Quest, you got to remember, there's a Joe somebody, where it's just like, ooh.
Or Zoom or one of those other bad.
Exactly. And just like with Tom Selleck. Yeah, he finally got a good supporting role in and Out, but let's not forget, Runaway. And
he had 3 on the Baby.
But it wasn't on his shoulders purely. He had Dancing and Gutenberg. I guess all three.
An Innocent Man was actually pretty good.
It was good, but again, nobody saw it.
What about Quigley Down Under? People seem to like that one.
Yeah, people do. I'm not one of them. Look, I'll give you an Innocent Man more than I'll give you a Quigley Down Under. I mean, if you
joined the Bloods.
Which one?
He toured like a Latino gang or something during the movie. They had F. Murray Abraham being like a Latin king.
Look, he did what he needed to do. It was like Sylvester Stallone in Lock Up. This is like, at least you got a decent movie out of this movie. Yeah. Which I only remember mainly because the guy who played Sledgehammer was one of the villains.
Right, yeah.
So I'll admit. And I think that was the first film where I saw man-on-man prison rape. That's why I remember that movie. I didn't see it again until American Me. I was like, yeah, anytime a man gets raped in a movie, I tend to remember.
In a Tom Selleck movie.
Especially at a young age. It's like, what's that? They do that in prison?
That's the reverse mortgage guy in a rape movie.
It was, oh, God, I should be ashamed of myself. The black actor who played the black prison gang leader, he's been in a lot of films, but I cannot remember his name. He looks like Richard T. Jones, though, but he's much older than him. I'm like, oh, man, yeah, prison. Maybe one day. No, that would be in bad taste. Never mind. But, yeah, I would put that Innocent Man I liked. Needless to say. Yeah, that's a movie we could definitely talk about. But I will say, this, unfortunately, is very problematic, which, like you said, is probably why it's very hard to find. But let me ask you this. Would you recommend it?
No.
At no point would you recommend this.
I highly do not recommend this movie. It will insult your intelligence.
Would you watch it again?
I don't think so. I mean, I have it, but I wouldn't be compelled to watch it again. Okay,
fair enough. This is a film that it feels like it should have went to straight to video even at the time it was made. What did what else did I write about it? Well, I already said it was misogynistic. There's a reason why it's hard to find. But you know what? This is, other than Summer School, the only leading man role, the Presidio, that you're really going to get Mark Harmon in a leading man role.
You know who would have been better for this movie instead of Mark Harmon? I think John Ritter would have killed it.
It would have been a little bit out of character. The only thing I think that would have hindered him is that there's not as much physical comedy for him to do.
But he could have added to it than Mark Harmon did.
That's true. I'm kind of glad Michael Keaton didn't star in this movie.
Oh God, no, he was doing Batman. He was safe.
Yes, he also would have been very scary. As the lady man. But scarily who could have starred in this? Because we always like to bring him up. Matthew Modine.
Yeah, maybe.
He might have been too young at the time, though.
Yeah, he was way too young to play a weatherman, especially one with 3 chicks like that.
But I will say everybody else is really good in this movie. Like you said, Mark Bloom is really good in this film. Andrea Martin, I always love, and no matter what she's in. Tony Longo, I mean, he plays this role almost every movie. Yeah. So, I feel like there is one actor out there who could have played this, and this might have even been a hit in 1989. It's just on a search. Folks, you feel free to comment on this if you actually watched this episode till the end. Because I don't
find this movie.
Yes, because half of you are gonna be like, I ain't watching that fucking episode. What the fuck is worth winning? Pardon my language. Is there any? I can't even say the music is worth remembering.
No, there's nothing memorable about the soundtrack.
And even the cinematographer and editor, not people whose names I recognize. Like,
I mean, the guy who directed it, he did episodes of Family Ties and Moonlighting, but he was just like a TV guy.
That explains it. Michael J. Fox had his version of this, but it was called The Secret of My Success and was much better.
A much funnier movie, yeah.
Maybe no.
Nah, he was still too young.
No, I was gonna go with maybe Michael Gross. Yeah, he's
nice as a guy though. I can't see
it. Tremors, that's him. Kevin Bacon, he was trying to make relationship movies at the time.
He was doing similar films like that, but that was at the point when nobody was going to see his movies and then decided to go back to being a character actor.
It could have worked. You make She's Having a Baby, then Worth Winning. The two sides. You know, if you made it now, Alec Baldwin.
No.
When he's in his thin face. Or Billy Baldwin. He ain't doing nothing.
Man, he got fat.
Not as big as Daniel.
No, but did you see the Backdraft sequel? I mean, not that you.
No, why would I watch the Backdraft sequel? Like, I wonder what happened.
Spoiler, he dies. They kill off the hero of the first film.
It's like, oh, I hope Donald Sutherland's in this one.
And Kurt Russell's son grows up to be a drug addict.
It's not played by Kurt Russell's actual son.
No. They had some random Canadian dude.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, Wyatt Russell. I will call your agent and find you a better job than Backdraft.
He won't play young Snake Plissken, so forget that dream.
Is William Forsythe in this movie?
No, unfortunately not.
It seems like a movie he would be in, though.
Yeah.
Was John Travolta in it?
No, but he's working with Bruce again in one of his last movies before he retires.
What is it? A Look Who's Talking sequel?
No, it's like one of these straight-to-video sequels like he normally does, where he has to have the earpiece on to hear his dialogue.
At least Bruce is trying something. I would feel like if Bruce Willis really wanted to try a final project, it should reach the big screen and maybe reunite him with like more of his famous co-stars, you know,
not friends, and you'd see him have fun and not just like, oh, I'm here just to do 2 days and then go home.
Exactly. Something like, even though I didn't like it, something like Lucky No. 11, you know.
Like I think about, and this is so random, but
no.
The show The Surreal Life on VH1 when it used to be on, and they had one season with Sherman Hensley on it, and they were doing like a mock Weatherman show, and they had him be one of the guys doing a Weatherman, and he was like having a depressed time. He wasn't getting into it, so they called up Marla Gibbs to come on to kind of help him out, and suddenly he sparked up.
Exactly. I mean, well, I watched that episode, so yeah. I mean, Sherman Helmsley could go on a whole episode about him. But
how did we go from Mark Harmon to Sherman?
We were thinking of alternate castings, and
imagine if he was in this movie.
I know. If they're fans of this show, you know this is half of the joy of the show, is that you never know where we're going.
Yeah, this is why we call it a deep dive.
Exactly. If we run out of talking about the movie, we go on tangent. Come on, you've seen Cobra Kai episodes of us. And so that's going. I think that's the end of this. Unless you have anything else you want to say about Mark Harmon or any of his co-stars in this movie.
He did a movie in Italy where he got jacked up like Rambo and started killing people, but that was like the early 80s.
Hey, Charlie Sheen could have been in this.
He probably would have worked too.
Or Emilio. I'm not working. That's the best.
I don't know.
Oh, if you made it now, it'd be Josh Duhamel and go straight to streaming.
Oh God, yeah, it would be so horrible. Or Gerard Butler with some of the bad romantic films he's done.
But would it be Gerard Butler with his accent or without his accent?
Oh, it'd be with the accent. I don't think he could do it without because it's just.
I don't know. Gerard Butler with the accent, I might be in. I'm like,
get a new agent, dude.
Hey, Katherine Heigl could play the Madeline Stowe role.
Oh, then this movie wouldn't even make the top 10 at the box office.
Hey, I didn't say it was going to be released theatrically. I said Hulu. Come
Not
on.
even. It'd probably be like on some random Roku channel that nobody watches.
Look, if Gerard Butler ain't killing nobody in it, it ain't reaching theaters.
No.
So, anyway, let's end this episode. That was worth winning. Obviously, movie we wouldn't recommend, but if you find it, it's going to be perfect evidence of the sexist 1980s.
And don't buy it either. Just wait for it on cable.
Yes, HBO or Showtime will eventually show it.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but eventually, out of its surplus. So that ends this week's business. But as you know, there's always so much business to deal with, especially in the deep. So until next time, we bid you adieu.